Welcome back to Alice Talks Football and welcome back to a live Manchester United show. Ruben Amorim's first few days, what has he been doing? He's been doing an interview. We got a sneak peek at some of the interview. I'm very excited for that, but I'm also very annoyed because the interview comes out at 7. I literally have to leave at 7 because I'm going out tonight, which means I won't be able to properly watch it till late tonight, tomorrow morning. But we've got bits of the interview. We're going to dive into that. We've got sources talking about Amorim, his character, how he's very honest, and he's going to be very honest with the United players. We obviously know about intensity, his high standards, who could be staying, who could be going, but a little bit about his honesty towards United players. The truth about Malacia. Malacia speaks out about his injury, his recovery. Why was he really out for so long? He actually suffered a couple of injuries, a couple of setbacks. We've got all the details on that and what happened. We've got an update on some transfer news. Ruben Nistelrooy's new job as well could be going to Coventry. Some of the sacked coaches, because 7 coaches have been sacked along with Ten Hag, have spoken out about their time at United and the pressure that they faced, among with some other stories. Naipan, Franco, young players we've been linked to, Chris Rigg. There's always a few links there. We've also now been linked to a youngster from RB Salzburg that I'm not super familiar with, but it could be one to watch. So, hello and welcome back to Alice Talks Football. Welcome back to your evening live show where we're going to be discussing all the latest Manchester United news, transfer news, updates and more. I'm on 97,291 subscribers. I'm 9 subscribers away from 97.3k. We're on that road to 100k. So please do subscribe if you're new. It means a lot. Smash the likes. And I think we're going to have to start with the news. We're going to have to start about talking about Ruben Amorim and all of that, because it is really exciting. I think the fact that we've got a new manager, he's going to be giving a new interview. The feeling you get around a new manager, especially if you've got someone with maybe, I say the pedigree of Ruben Amorim, but someone that's, did what Ruben Amorim's done at Sporting, someone that's looked at Man City for their pet replacement, someone that Liverpool looked at. When you've got someone particularly like Ruben Amorim coming in, I think if Southgate's coming in, it's a different feeling, but there's always a vibe when a new manager comes in, especially after the football we've been playing the last 18 months, how bad it's been, how Ruben Nistelrooy saw us get a couple of results, and now we can feel more positive knowing that we're only 4 points off third and everyone's returning from injury and a new manager's coming in at this point in time, that actually something quite good can happen at United. There's this positive feeling that actually this could be a good season. 4 points off third. We've won the last couple of games. Ruben Nistelrooy, but a bit of confidence back in the players. The scoring goals. Amorim's coming in. We've had bad football for 18 months. And there's a bit of positivity there, especially when you hear about Ruben Amorim and his personality, how he works with the youth and everything. And of course, every time you get a manager, there's all the PR spin about how they're good at this, how they're good at that. And then look, a lot of those new managers fail. But I've said this 50 million times on this channel, and I'll say it for the 51st million times. I think Ruben Amorim is just different. There's something different about him. And I said that with Ten Hag, but the reason he's different is because he's working with Ineos. He's working with Ashworth, Bivol, Berardo and Wilcox. Ten Hag still had to work with Murta and Arnold, which managers have failed under the past. The other managers had to work with Woodward. This is the first manager, because it's not a manager, it's the first head coach of United that's actually going to be working with a competent structure. This is the first time that we've sorted out the structure, we've sorted out the environment of this club to bring in a new coach. And that's why I'm excited. And that's why I think there's a slightly different feeling about it. And as Alex said here, thankfully, Ruud steadied the ship these last few matches, so Ruben coming in is a slightly better situation. It just feels better. 4 points off third feels very, very good. So I'm very, very excited. I'm very, very positive. We are going to talk about Malacia in a second, but Ruben Amorim's first interview as Man United head coach is going to drop at 7 p.m. tonight. And as Ruben Nistelrooy said, it's not Ruben Amorim. Bloody hell, I'm getting them confused now. Ruben Amorim's said it's the best club in the world. So let's dive into some of Ruben Amorim's interview quotes. The full interview will be out at 7 p.m. tonight, which unfortunately I can't react to right away. But what has Ruben Amorim said in his interview that we already know of? On Old Trafford, he said, only TV, it's big and impressive. When you hear, you can feel it. He said, you feel the history. I'm very proud to be the manager of Manchester United. It's incredible. It's an honour to be here, was said by Ruben Amorim. And you can tell he feels honoured to be here. You can tell he feels happy and blessed to be here. I don't know if you've seen the footage of his first few days inside Old Trafford, how he was just saying, wow. And he even kissed a photo, was looking at the former manager wall as well. He's really in awe of being in Old Trafford. It feels massive to him. I'll show you this here. This is from my video earlier today. this was Ruben Amorim walking around Old Trafford, getting a feel for the place, looking at the pictures as well, getting all excited, knowing what it means, looking at the trophies and the success of this club, taking photos with fans on a stadium tour, getting ready in the press box, which will be Thursday. He's going to take training for the first time on Monday. Meeting the players a couple of days ago, Mason Mount, Kobbie Mainoo, Lenny Yoro, Luke Shaw, Collier, met a couple of players, met up with Barada, Ashworth, Rivel, etc. Ineos have said we're sacking 7 coaches, we're bringing in the 5 or 6 coaches Ruben Amorim wants brought in, sporting analysts, sports scientists, and his 4 coaches. He wants to start with back 3 immediately. He wants intensity, so certain players could struggle. He's actually brought in a sports scientist to test which players are going to meet his demands physically so he can assess the players. We know that he has a connection with the players, and we know that Ten Hag struggled to maybe relate to some of the players in the squad. I think he fell out with a few of the bigger players, Ten Hag, but Ruben Amorim is a manager known for his connections that he has with players, and he builds strong relationships with players, which is something you can argue that Ten Hag lacked. Wants to implement his 3-4-3. There's talk of Rashford being number 9. He's got a particular interest in the academy. Bentito Mantato is one that's been talked about. Harry Amas, another one that's been talked about. Lenny Yoro sin as key, but they're going to gently mould him in. It's going to be Delict and Martinez for now, and he will use a lot of subs. There will be a lot of rotation. There is a lot of plans there under Ruben Amorim. It's going to be exciting. And between the sports scientists and rotation, Ruben Amorim has a history of limiting injuries within his squad as well, which is something I think we definitely need. And that must have been something on a CV that Ineos looked in as well. Ruben has potential, and let's be positive, but this last decade's shown us nothing is a guarantee. 100%. You've only got to be positive, because if we're negative, there's no point being negative about it. It's a new manager. Ineos is here. Look, there are some things I'm a little bit concerned about, and I do think it's going to take time for Ruben Amorim to be a success. But I think in general, we just have to be positive about this appointment and say, yes, I know we keep going around in circles, getting excited about a manager, they flop, but this is a head coach. This is different. This is Ineos. Ineos want change. I think Ineos are serious. They want to improve this club. So that's why I'm trying to be as positive as I can. When you might think of being over positive about Amorim, but you've got to be excited. We're allowed to be excited. Like, it might not work out, he might flop, but I don't think I thought Ten Hag was going to work out, and it didn't. We won a few trophies under Ten Hag, but this is the first head coach. This is the first guy of the Ineos regime. We've got to believe that things are going to be different under Ineos, otherwise we're just going to be miserable. That's the way I see it as well. I think the sports scientist will be the biggest difference that we won't see right away, but long term, we can be back on what a great move by Ruben. Yeah, I think we needed a sports scientist. I also think Dan Ashworth is someone that you won't see what he does in his first year or two at a club, but we'll see the impacts of the structures and things that Dan Ashworth puts in place to make sure the environment of the club is better. He did it at England, he did it at West Brom, he did it at Brighton. He even made an impact at Newcastle in a short time there as well. Dan Ashworth's one of those, but you won't see what he does in his first year and a half. But 3-4 years down the line, we will see the impact of Dan Ashworth. Alice, absolutely nobody can get enough of you. Both channels spot on. Appreciate that as well. Interview drops in an hour. Excited for that. But let's get back into the news. Let's get back into the stories, because I do have a lot to get through and I can't make this live show super long. But if you have not already, guys, please do go ahead and hit that like button. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new, because we're going to get into all the news, all the content. I like to keep my stuff short and sweet. I don't go live for super long. I do 10-minute videos rounding up the news. Obviously, I just summed up a little bit of the stuff that I spoke about in my video today, but there is a little bit of transfer news and stuff going on. But I want to dive into this report about Ruben Amorim being very honest with our players. I think this is a particularly exciting report. It was said, Ruben Amorim was always very honest with his players and to the press. Passionate, cool minds all the time, reading the game really well. Very demanding with players when they won and comprehensive when they didn't. People trust him. He's very easy to like. So it was said by Vienna that Ruben Amorim is always very honest with his players and to the press as well. He's passionate, cool minds all the time. He reads the game well. He's very demanding with the players when they won and comprehensive when they didn't run. People trust him. He's very easy to like. So Ruben Amorim has been described as someone that is very, very honest. Oh, fuck's sake. Let me get rid of that. Sorry. Someone said Amorim is very diplomatic, which could work in his favour with certain players who throw their toys out the pram. He needs to be, though. Says Ronnie Dodge. I think, yeah, we're going to talk about Amorim. Sorry, I got distracted because I've got about 1 million messages in the last second. But yes, Ruben Amorim is someone that will be honest with his players. If he thinks his players are not good enough, he will tell them that. He likes to believe that he can get the best out of all his players, and he likes to believe in all his players. And if they do a bad period, he likes to back them. He likes to believe in them, as Bruno Fernandes says. But he will be honest. If he thinks a player is not to the standard to play for United and isn't going to get minutes, he will tell them that. He's not here to entertain average players. He wants players that are going to give everything for him. He wants players that he believes can play his football, have the intensity, have the technical abilities to do that. And he is known in terms of his man management. He is known in terms of his ability to control players very well. He has a great relationship with his players. You can see how sad the Sporting players are that he's going, the connection he had with them. And that's something that maybe Erik ten Hag lacked, particularly with the bigger names at the club, which I think people are worried about. Do head coaches have a better track record than managers? I'd say most successful gaffers are those with considerable power and influence, which is true, but I think it is the modern game. Head coaches is something that's come about quite recently, something that Brighton have employed, and they've been quite a successful club. Arne Slot is a head coach. They're currently top of the league. I think head coach is the way moving forward as well. But Erik ten Hag had a character man management issue. Amorim should be a massive improvement on that. And interestingly, touching upon what Alex said, it was actually said by Bruno Fernandes after the Leicester win, the 3-0 win. He was asked about why is it so much better under Ruud? Because we played 4 games under Ruud. We won 3 of them, but we looked better. Not loads better. There wasn't too much difference because Ruud's obviously not going to make a miracle change in 3 weeks. But Bruno said what Ruud van Nistelrooy did is he brought fun back to training. He tried to make us enjoy playing again, realised that we're playing for United, and he brought the fun and a bit of jokes to training. And I think, the way that the players connected with Ruud van Nistelrooy, the players really like Ruud van Nistelrooy. They wanted to stay. We've known for a while the players really get on with Ruud van Nistelrooy. They find him really easygoing. They connect to him a lot better than they connect to Van der Gaag. And when Ruud van Nistelrooy was in charge, the biggest difference was, 1, a few small changes, like he was playing Ahmad on the right for balance. 2, he used Ugarte and Casemiro together for balance. But the main thing that Ruud van Nistelrooy changed was just the mood and the atmosphere in around the club and training. He got on well with the players. He connected with the players. And there's, it might sound like a small thing, but it definitely had its impact on the pitch. And I think that's one of the reasons we looked a lot better under Ruud van Nistelrooy. And that's why Bruno said that United were better, because they felt happy playing football again. I think it was their way of saying when ten Hag left, it was a weight lifted off their shoulder. And having a good man manager that is honest with his players will be good. Someone that is honest with his players, someone that will support his players, back his players, but will say it how it is. It's not going to be every time he loses and we're in 14th place bringing up the fact that he won an FA Cup 6 months ago like ten Hag was doing. It's going to be honesty, and I think we need that. Love is honesty, will demand the same from his players. No shrinkers or frauds, more in. Yeah. What player do you think will be first criticised? I think he's a manager that won't criticise the players publicly to the press. I think he will criticise them privately. In terms of who I think he could criticise, it depends, because, players that I think he might criticise might see Ruben Amorim coming in as a really good opportunity to get their act together and perform, and he won't criticise them. There's a couple of players I don't know how they fit Ruben Amorim's system, but I don't want to name players that I think he will criticise because I don't know how they're going to react to Ruben Amorim coming in. But there is a couple of players that will need to step up for sure. Amorim needs to lay down the law on day one, or he will be the next manager fired by the squad, says Rex. And I think the squad have realised, though, that it's different under Ineos. Ineos don't want to keep sacking managers. This is Ineos' first manager. They want to make it work. I think Ten Hag was always in a weak position when Ineos came in, purely for the fact that Ineos didn't appoint him. And maybe the players took advantage of the fact that he was in a weak position because Ineos never appointed him. So Ineos, always in the back of the head, probably didn't want him because they never appointed him. And I think the players knew that. And that obviously put him in a weaker position with the players. But I think with Amorim, the players will know that this is Ineos' appointment. Ineos are not messing about. Ineos want this to work. I think they know that they've got to perform and give under Amorim, if I'm going to be totally honest as well. Will Amorim field Casemiro and Ugarte in the pivot? I think he might start with Casemiro and Ugarte and mould Maino back in when he builds fitness up as well. Do you think Alte Bendia will be involved? I think Anana needs to rest. Anana plays in goal, so I think he'll stay in goal. Yeah, I think Amorim is honest and kind, but even ruthless. So if he feels the players are not doing good, then he will say that he is more like the emotional coach, a little like a friend, not so far. Yeah, I agree. He's seen as a friend, but also a coach, a figure as well. Would you like Victor Gyökeres? Cannot complain about Victor Gyökeres. Top player. I don't think anyone would say no to him. Erik ten Hag seems that little bit old-fashioned, cold distance Dutch type. That's hard to work in the modern game. Yeah, he does. I know exactly what you mean, and I think that's maybe where Erik ten Hag struggled, particularly with the Ronaldos, the Casemiros, the Varanes, the De Geas that he reportedly fell out with. Sancho, I don't think you can blame on Erik ten Hag. I think Sancho was being a knobhead. But yeah. Someone said, also, We also can't be too sentimental with managers anymore. Have to keep changing them out until we find the right one. I agree. I'd like to give Amorim time. I think with these players and the fact that a lot of these players probably aren't able to play at the intensity Amorim will demand, I think if Amorim's first season doesn't go well, we don't give him the chop. We give him a summer and we judge him in his second season. Once he's had a summer, once he's had significant investment, it doesn't need to be perfect, but if we see progress, we back him. If we don't see progress, that's when you say, sack him. But I think, to be honest, it's not just on Amorim. I think, it will be if Amorim doesn't work, we'll sack him, bring another one in. It's on Ineos as well to get recruitment right. They've brought people in that are good at recruitment. They're not going to get everything perfect. They're not going to get everything spot on. I think this summer's been a success. Mazraoui, 100% success. De Ligt, very good, brings leadership. Ugarte is looking better by the game. I think it will be a success. Yoro, I'm confident, will be a success with time. Xerxes is the only one with question marks around him, but he's not been utilised properly. I think this summer's been a success. If 4 out of 5 signings end up being working, that is a successful summer, especially considered what happened in the past. I think Xerxes probably got the biggest question marks around him at the moment, but he's only 23. You've also got to remember, Ugarte 23, Xerxes 23, Yoro 18, De Ligt 25, Mazraoui 26. They're all there for the future as well. It's still young. It's still building for the future. So I think they got this summer spot on. But I think it's not just on Amorim, but it is on Ineos to get the recruitment spot on under Amorim. Amorim will need athletes. Amorim will need players that are physically able to cover the ground and hit the level and play at the intensity he wants. Maybe we'll look at Semenyo. Maybe we'll look at Baliba. Maybe we'll look at Braithwaite. We need those kind of athletic players as well. Xerxes has only been here a matter of months, needs time to be fully judged. 100%. He might need time to warm up, get used to the league, and maybe he'll start hitting the ground running. I think striker is the hardest position to play in the Premier League, especially if you're joining from a different league, because it requires so many things. But I think he could be a 10 in Amorim's system, and I think he could play with Højlund or just behind Højlund in Amorim's system. And I'm quite excited to see how that works, because I think it could work quite well. Amorim needs to get rid of 2 parasitic players here post Fergie and beyond. Right, okay. I think there's a couple of players that will need to go, but I wouldn't call any of them parasitic. That's a bit over the top as well. But I think there's players that aren't good enough and won't be able to play Amorim ball. But everyone's got a fresh start. Everyone's got from now until January. Be interesting to see what happens. But let's continue on this. Ruben Amorim was always very honest with his players and to the press. Passionate, cool minds all the time, reading the game very well. Demanding with the players when they won and comprehensive when they didn't. People trust him. He's very easy to like. The United job was no different from Sporting when Amorim took over. They were also in a mess. Ruben Amorim felt the club needed a change, and he could be the guy that basically gathering the pieces of a broken club. He looks at the Manchester United the same way. He feels that opportunity for him is what was said. So he looks at United as a club like Sporting. He took over Sporting when the worst ever period, 19 years without a league title, with 4th place. He took them over, he won the league, did loads of good stuff with Sporting, brought through youth, brought through many players, sold many players for a profit, and integrated new players into his system well, particularly known for getting the best out of his midfielders and out of his fullbacks. It's said, Ruben Amorim with United sees a project. He's coming in at a very difficult time. But at Sporting, he got the best out of his players. He churned around that club. He's hoping to do the same at Manchester United, what he's done there. And he sees it's a similar situation. And he will be very honest with his players, which I think is definitely needed as well. Apparently, Amorim won't allow players to use their phone during training sessions, just a rumour I heard. And that's probably as it should be. As it should be. They shouldn't be using their phone during training as well. So let's dive into the next story, because we could talk about Amorim all day, but I do want to talk about Malacia, the whole injury situation, obviously what's been going on with Malacia and more. So the stages during Tyrell Malacia's unavailability, according to his interview with MJ Critchley. So he had a left meniscus tear, which is a not very nice injury to get, and he had persistent pain despite rest during the off-season. So he then had had surgery because it wasn't getting better. Now, the surgery caused a bit of inflammation around the knee, and the treatment just did not improve the situation. Scans reveal a small presence of small fragments of cartilage around the meniscus, which is really bad injury to get. And 2 options was leave the fragments and hope they disappear naturally, or reopen the knee and undergo further surgery. He went, obviously, for a new surgery, and then something called convalescence, which I don't know what that is. I don't know, what that really is, but I don't know my medical words, but when you're hearing the words meniscus and cartilage, and you know that's going to be painful, and you know that's not going to be a nice injury as well. Meniscus tear is bad, plus near unreversible, and I think with Malacia, I don't know if he's going to come back and hit the same levels. I think it's not even just physically, but psychologically as well. Knowing what he's been through, it can affect him as well. But that is a really, really bad injury that Malacia has gone through. So, look, I think with Malacia, if he comes back and he doesn't play well, please, guys, don't go in on him and start giving him stick or hate. I think you've got to realise what he's been through, and that could have been a career-ending injury. And I think we just got to be supportive of it. I think he'll probably be sold in the summer. So even if he plays a few games and he's not at the levels, he'll be sold in the summer. And it'll be sad because he gave us some really good games versus Barcelona. I thought he was fantastic versus Liverpool, versus City. The wins we got under Ten Hag against those sides, he did a lot for us time around Malacia. He really did. So in that first season, he wasn't as good as Luke Shaw, and it wasn't our starting left back, but he filled in those big games and he did a job for us. So, there was something out of it, and he comes with a trophy. But yeah, convalescence, believe, is rehab/recovery period. Okay. But yeah, I think we've got to be good with him, and hopefully he can recover fully. So Malacia did himself speak out on his injury and what he's entailed. He said, every day since the injury, what does it look like? He said, just being there, enjoying the pitch, the ball, the fans, my teammates, everything, pulling my boots on, pulling the shirt on of Man United and being out there is what he said. He's saying, now he's back from injury. The small things like pulling his boots on and actually being able to kick the ball and train with his teammates is probably something massive. Probably, if you've not been able to do that for 18 months, you're going to think, wow, that's amazing. So you can imagine that as well. He said on his injury rehab length, he said, I think at the end of the day, everything I did, even if it was a mistake or something, I won't see it as a mistake because it's a lesson. I think everything in life is already written for me. I had to go through this whole process to where I am now. I wouldn't do anything different, is what he said. So just thinking of it of like, this is what happened. Can't change what happened. Everything happens for a reason. I think, he wasn't aware he was going to be out for 18 months at the beginning, which might have been better for him, because I think if he'd known he was going to be out for 18 months, how you get through that. He thought he was going to be out for a couple months, had a setback, thought he was going to be out for another couple months, then had a setback and a surgery, and then he knew he was going to be out for a while. Which must have been hard, but I think he's probably just so happy to get back on the pitch and get back involved. He said about his targets, he doesn't have a specific number of games. He said he's just got to take it game by game, and I think you do with that kind of injury. Other than that, he wants to bring the team back to the top. That's what the standard has to be at United, even though it's difficult, you should aim for the top. I think he wants to get back in the team, wants to play, but it's more about bringing the team back to the top and playing well. And I thought this was an interesting touch. The Athletic wrote this in their article earlier. They said that Casemiro presented his FA Cup medal to Tyrone Malacia and urged him to walk up the steps of Wembley with the rest of the team for a trophy presentation. Because Malacia wasn't involved last season, he wasn't very interested in, he wasn't interested, but I think he felt out of place going and joining in the trophy celebrations with the rest of the Man United squad because he'd not contributed, and Casemiro just told him, don't be silly, have my medal, you're a part of the team. So you got to big up Casemiro for that as well. Proper leadership there from Casemiro, because obviously we know during the FA Cup final, Casemiro was benched, completely dropped, and all of that stuff, and he gave his medal to Malacia. We know there's a few issues between Eric Ten Hag and Casemiro in the FA Cup final, but Casemiro still, kept his professionalism and was there for Malacia, which is good as well. England games were a bore. Yeah, I didn't watch the England game. There's no Man United players playing, so I don't care about England, to be honest, as well. Been out so long, hard to remember exactly what type of player Malacia was. He was quite good defensively. He had room for improvement going forward. I just think he did quite well when we actually had Luke Shaw left centre-back, Malacia left back, and we played Man City and beat them. We played Barcelona and beat them. We played Liverpool and got a result. We played Arsenal and got a result. And Malacia was involved in all of those games. Continuing on into some of the transfer news now, this was said per multiple reports, Manchester United are confident about signing Naipan and have also initiated contact with Franco Mastantuono's representatives. We might be acquiring two of the most promising young midfielders. Ineos pushing very hard. Now, I don't think we will get both of these young players, but I think we could end up with one of those young players. I think Naipan is the more affordable, but I do think Franco could be the better player. Cole Palmer regen have the higher ceiling as well. Could be a long-term Bruno replacement. I think he is someone that in 2 years, when we're looking to replace Bruno, this is someone you could be looking at as well. Malacia was exciting in Ten Hag's first season, yeah. I do remember being quite energetic as well, which is something that hopefully he gets back. If I'm going to be honest, I don't think he's going to reach the levels that he was once at, and I think he'll probably be sold in the summer. But I wish Malacia all the best as well. So let's dive into the transfer news. So apparently United and Arsenal are among clubs still in talks with Oscar Gluak as the January transfer window approaches. I'm not going to lie, I've not watched Oscar Gluak. I don't know how good he is and what kind of impact that he will make. I just know that he plays for RB Salzburg. He has 5 goals and 2 assists in 9 matches, and he is 20 years of age. Could be a young, exciting player, but again, I just not seen enough of him to really judge him or tell you much about him, if I'm going to be honest. If we get linked to him, I'll do a bit more research, but predominantly plays left wing, can play attacking at midfield. Could be one to watch. First time we've been linked to him, and attacking footy do have some good sources of information. The second bit of news coming out is that Manchester United have been in contact with Franco Mastantuono's representatives. Now, on Franco, I want to say one thing. We've been linked to him a lot, and we've been linked to him by some credible sources. The Muppeteers have also linked us to him. There's a lot of stories. We definitely have interest in this guy. But we were linked to Anselmo a lot in April, and he signed for Chelsea. And I will say, sometimes with these Argentine talents, their agent is constantly putting out information that United are in talks and United are going for them, to get a bit of stories generating about them, getting other teams a little bit worried that United could go in and sign this player to hurry Chelsea up or Real Madrid up. Chelsea have interest, Real Madrid have interest. There's 4 or 5 other clubs with interest in Franco. United do have interest, but United could be being used by his agent of them saying United are really interested, United have stepped up talks, because the guy wants to move in January. His season is now over, essentially. So they do, and I have to, with a lot of, this happened with Anselmo, this happened with probably Moises Caicedo. You know, Romano even said that he was expecting us to get Moises Caicedo. Sometimes the agents of those players put out information that a deal was a lot hotter, or a lot closer, or a lot more going on than it is, because Chelsea will panic. They think Man United are going to get this guy. They're going to go sign him. And then they get what they want from Chelsea, and they use United for that. So while I think we're interested in Franco, and I think there's definitely a possibility of it happening in January, and I've just realised that the camera has gone there, and there's definitely a possibility of it happening in January, I do think that we've got to be a little bit wary just with the fact that agents use United for clicks. I think that's one thing we've got to be wary of as well. But the camera likes to just go every now and then. I don't know why, it's annoying. In terms of other news stories going about as well, it was said that Ruud van Nistelrooy has applied for the Coventry City job, and Andreas Jorgensen, who was one of the coaches under Ten Hag, said the pressure around United is enormous. It puts a hell of a lot of pressure on players and coaches. And some of the coaches that were sat said when you're at United, you are under a lot of pressure as a player and as a coach, and I can imagine so. And you've got to have that mentality to be at United. It's not, there's one thing moving to a big club having the ability, but you've also got to have the mentality. In football, it's about mentality and ability these days, not just about ability. It can only get you so far at a big club as well. Mastantuono seems a top talent, but could cost quite a bit. I don't want to spend more than 15 million on someone that won't be a regular starter for at least a year and a half, 2 years. I think we need to improve the people that are in the starting 11, make sure that Amorim's got a starting 11 of players that can play at a certain intensity, and then go for those youth starts. But I also understand that there's such a talented youth player there that we might not want to miss out on, who could be the next Cole Palmer as well. So it's one of those where it's sort of 50-50 in that approach. Guys, please do go ahead and hit that like button if you have not already. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new. Share the video. By the way, I'm 7 subscribers away from 97.3k. I'm on 97,293 subscribers. So if you are watching right now and you're not subscribed to Alice Talks Football, it would be massively appreciated if you do go show some love and subscribe to the channel as well. The media coverage is worse than ever. It's basically sabotage level towards us now, 100%. The media just, write the most crap about United as well. What do you think of sell Casemiro and buy Subamende? The fact that Liverpool struggled so much to buy Subamende and other clubs, I don't think we get him. I think Subamende, he probably wants to leave Sociedad now and maybe go to Liverpool. I think if we get back on track, maybe he'd be interested in United, but I can't see it happening as well. Yes, Ruben van Nistelrooy has applied for the Coventry City job. They are considering it. Oh, it was said that Real Madrid and Alphonso Davies have an agreement and he will sign in January. So apparently Alphonso Davies has agreed to join Real Madrid in January, and it is said that Manchester United believe they need to make a decision on whether to move for Naipan soon to avoid being beaten by other clubs to his signature, is some news as well. And I think the problem with Naipan is I just don't 100% know where he fits in Amorim's system. So I think with Amorim coming in, it does put a bit of a spanner in the work in terms of Naipan, and United have obviously got to make a big decision on Naipan soon as well. But yeah, what do you think? Someone said, what do you think if we sell Casemiro and buy Subamende? I'd love it, but it's not going to happen. If we go for Subamende, what about Agate? They could both play. Subamende could play with more advanced than Agate. They could play together. We've seen Casemiro and Agate play together. Why couldn't Agate and Subamende play together? I just think that if Subamende is going to move, he's probably going to go to Liverpool as well. Look up San Sebastian, Spain, and you'll see why Subamende was not in a rush to leave. San Sebastian, Spain. I'm interested in this now. I'll probably look this up properly later. But apparently, I know a lot of people aren't interested in leaving the area. I know Basque players are very loyal to the Basque areas. That's what I know about that as well. But where Sociedad plays nice there, I can imagine as well. And also, I know that Basque players are very loyal. They're very loyal to that. That's something that's always said about the Basque players. But listen, people, I'm going to wrap up today's live show here. We have been live for half an hour, and I want to big up everybody that tuned into today's live show. It's been a great show talking about Amorim, how he's honest with players, the impact that he's going to have, potential transfers, Naipan, Malacia, the latest on his injury. And of course, we are on 97,293 subscribers, 3 subscribers away from 97.3k. So on the way out, please hit the like button and of course, subscribe down below if you're new. Thank you for watching. Bye.